Hello, fellow dreamers. What is up? Hey, what are some of the life lessons you've learned along the way that, if you could impart them to other people, might make their lives a little better? Well, I've got a list too. I wonder if our lists are the same. Let's join this conversation and see where it goes.
This podcast is a presentation of Pioneer Dream, celebrating 30 years of moving stories for our corporate, nonprofit, and entertainment partners.
Hello, fellow dreamers, and welcome back to the Dreamers Live podcast. We are so thrilled you are here as always, and I am joined by the effervescent, always perky, unswayable Anjanette. Hello, Anjanette. How are you?
You had me till unswayable.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's so nice. Am I unswayable?
Sure you are. You're steadfast and rock solid, and it's hard to give some of those compliments to a woman because they all have to do with like size and like roughness and stuff. So to say someone is, I don't know, is unswerving, then you just get the idea like that she's blocky.
Solid.
Yeah.
My gran came up to me one time, and I loved her and she loved me, but she had a way with words, and
yes, she did.
It could make you feel a little bad about it.
Not in the poetic sense.
No. And she came up and gave me like, hey, honey. Boy, you're looking solid.
Oh, God.
And I was like, ow, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I'm doing my best.
You're doing great.
But yes, I'm unswayable today.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy you're here, and thanks for being willing to do this. Dreamers, we have missed you all. We've been kind of caught up in the whole adventure of getting from spring to summer, from school unto summer activities, but we are here, and you have our undivided attention today.
Yes.
And we're thrilled to be here. I don't know if I came up with this because we've just made this kind of transition. It's not really nostalgia. If you have a pre-nostalgia, what is that? So like I was thinking the other day.
Where you feel like you're going to be nostalgic for something in advance?
No, it's more like in nostalgia, you would kind of go back and relive something and maybe glean something from it or whatever.
Yeah.
This is more like I was thinking about our daughter Evangeline, and I was thinking about if there were a handful of things I could give her, a handful of life lessons I would want her to have from us, from me, from both of us.
Okay.
It was kind of like a pre-nostalgia. It was like a pre-thing. Like these are the things I would want you to walk away with. And there's probably about 15 or so of them. But I started writing down 10 of them. And it might become part of a column or something like that I'm working on.
Okay.
And I wanted you and I to discuss them with our friends, the Dreamers. And we'll do it as two parts. We'll do 5 today and 5 the next time, just so we don't belabor or wear anybody else, and we'll keep them short. Okay. So these are 10 of the 15 or so things I would like if I could say, okay, I'm imparting these things to you, this will make your life better if you take these 10 things, you take these 15 things, then that's what I want you to have. Okay. And beyond some of the obvious things like that she is loved and adored and comes from good genes and all that stuff. So here are 10 things, and I'll just read each one kind of so these are not proofed or edited or cleaned up or anything like that. They're just
your thoughts.
These are just kind of the first brushstroke of these things.
Okay, are you going to read the list first and then we're going to talk about each one?
I'll read each one and we can talk about each one as we go. We'll talk and discuss amongst ourselves.
Okay. And I'll let you know if I don't
agree. If you agree or not. Yeah. So and they're not necessarily in order of priority, but the first one is kind of the first one.
Meaning most important?
To me, yeah. I think everything starts here. So the first thing I wrote down, if I was going to give or impart something to our daughter, the first thing that I would impart is, above all else, guard your heart. Okay. So we've talked about that before. So everything begins here. Everything begins with guarding your heart. So when our heart is hard, it's nearly impossible to fully love another person. It's also difficult to be fully loved by someone when your heart is hard. It's hard to recognize nuance or to hear inspiration. It's hard to see all the colors like in a given moment. Right. To me, when your heart is hard, it's hard to rest fully. I mean, it takes so much energy to maintain the hardness. It's almost like you're not breathing enough. You're not getting enough oxygen when your heart is hard. So you never really fully rest. I don't think you ever really fully laugh. Like the whole thing of giving yourself, I think it takes a soft heart or a fullness of your heart to fully release, like to laugh with your whole body. I mean, it's hard to do that when your heart is hard. It's hard to mourn someone fully or to enjoy something fully. It's almost like having taste buds that have been dulled, like if you would scald your mouth or scald your tongue, or for those people who have smoked and stuff, that sometimes taking in that amount of smoke and heat and stuff into your mouth will actually dull your taste buds. So a hardness on your heart kind of has that same impact, I think, in our lives.
Yeah.
It will stop you from fully seeing all the colors, tasting all the flavors, giving all the emotions, experiencing all that stuff. And so it takes a great deal of determination and awareness to, above all else, guard your heart. So the hardness of the world around us will sometimes cloud us, and it can trap us into self-focus, which is what hardness does a lot of times.
Yeah.
And that self-focus can suffocate us, especially when that self-focus turns into self-hatred and on and on. So unchecked hate, unchecked judgment, even unforgiveness will choke the life out of us. So we guard our hearts in order to be essentially fully alive.
That's a good one and definitely important.
But you're against it.
No. Easier said than done because, when we harden our hearts or our hearts get hardened by sort of just the circumstances of life around us, it's a defense mechanism.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of times to guard against disappointment that we've had, it's sort of a reaction that can happen from pain and disappointment, which are parts of life. And so I think in order to guard your heart from that hardness and keep it soft, and this is the challenge, I think things have to be dealt with. Yeah, I guess.
Right, and that's uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and challenging.
Yeah, and for me, that has to be a lot of times on a daily basis.
Yes,
I've got to get up and say, why do I feel hard toward this, or why am I suspicious of this, or do I feel jaded about this thing?
Right.
And it's a lot of looking internally and then asking for help and letting and freeing yourself from those feelings so that your heart can remain open. It's also for somebody that is kind of sensitive like me. I'm such a special flower.
You are. You're delicate, but unswaying.
I didn't mean it that way. Thank you so much.
And so steady.
And very solid.
And very solid.
I'm even more solid than I used to be.
Wow.
But no, I feel emotions pretty deeply, and I often can sense what other people are going. And I think sometimes creative people struggle with that a little bit more. So for me, keeping my heart open sometimes can feel a little bit dangerous. I'm going pretty deep on this fast.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
But because I feel things pretty deeply.
Yes.
And so it's easier to have sort of a level of sarcasm
Right.
or a little bit of jade, or just if I open my heart up to not being disappointed pretty quick, I feel like it's going to happen.
Right.
So I can let just a certain level of
Yes.
hardness on the exterior remain
Yeah.
if I'm not careful, because I'm afraid of feeling too much.
Sure. Yeah, and obviously for listeners, I mean, they know that Dreamers is not a quote spiritual podcast, though we are all spiritual beings. We are spirits living in the material world, actually.
Thank you. Is that Madonna?
No, that's a material girl. No, that's the Police.
I got the right era.
That may be the first time the Police and Madonna have ever been confused.
Well, I just heard the
Is
word
that
material.
That's great.
It was during the 80s.
But I think whatever your tradition is and whatever your practice is or whatever your belief system is, the idea of the heart being kind of the engine of our lives, or the starting place of who we are, or the essence of who we are, that rings true even if you don't belong to quote the Christian tradition or something like that, because it is our essence, it's our origin place, it's the beginning of everything for us. So everything in us passes through this thing we call our heart. And so yeah,
It's the
it
gate.
takes, so it, what it's really saying in so many words is above all else, this is the most important thing. So,
So what does it look like too?
so in that moment, it is about, since it's our quote highest priority, then it is about a daily or multiple times a day, wow, and reoccurring. It is about checking that. It is about being honest with that. It is about prioritizing and saying, this is hard work to confront this today.
Yeah.
When I want to kill this person, sometimes figuratively, sometimes literally. I know for me, because I have a certain amount of love for myself, I cannot let that thing stay. And so, yes, it means daily and multiple times a day checking to say, okay, every time I see this person, I clench up inside.
Yeah.
So I need to recognize what's happening here. Every time I think about this, my stomach gets tight. Every time on and on. And so we choose to treat that as a priority. We choose to do counseling. We choose to go to ancient scriptures and proverbs and things like that and hold those things up like a mirror into our faces. We choose to let those things direct our lives and even how we manage our hearts and protect those.
So what are some of the things that help? I think this would be based on the individual.
Yeah.
What are some things for you personally that help keep your heart soft? I turned it back on you, didn't I? Oh, this is great advice. Oh, wait, you're talking to me?
I think there are a couple things, and this won't be a surprise to anybody because we talk about these things a lot. Things that help me keep my heart soft are this daily practice, this daily routine for me of waking up in the morning, having coffee. For me, that means doing some meditation. That means reading some of the scriptures and stuff like that. And then two things happen there. One, I am looking into my own heart to try and see spot checks. Where are the hard parts? Where are the places that are getting difficult? So, like if you were feeling your own flesh, you would feel around to see if you feel tough spots, hard spots, those kind of things. Yeah. And then I would say, okay, that's something that needs attention. There's something in here I'm going to have to let go of. There's something here I'm going to have to forgive. There's something here I'm going to have to release in that conversation. And then with the scriptures, like we talked about, that's a place, and it doesn't have to be just scriptures. I mean, there's lots of books that can kind of help us with that. For us, the scriptures tend to be incredibly helpful in this way.
I know sometimes poetry can really be helpful. So, there's something about the beauty of the language that can get to a soft place in you.
Yeah, I read through a poetry book by Rumi, who's a lot of people know, and it was incredibly insightful and really, really helpful. But when we read those things, we make the choice to employ them. We make the choice to apply them to our lives, not just read them, but to take action on it and say, okay, I'm going to hold myself accountable to that. So that's one thing I do. And then I think the other thing is to be with people. The more that I am with other people and have these conversations with you, with people who are close to me, it's harder for me to maintain or hold on to bitterness. It's harder for me. I feel like a liar. I feel like a fake when I'm with you, and I have a certain level of resentment. And then because we love each other, there's probably a place in there where you would just say, hey, you're going to have to let that go. Hey, I get it. I'm tired of hearing about it.
I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah, you would say it nicely, but
I know for me, one of the biggest things, and like I was on the struggle bus this morning.
You were?
Hey, back off,
just
man.
checking. I didn't know if that was you that drove by or not. I was asking.
If there's 7 days in a week, there's probably 2 I'm going to be on the bus, and
lucky.
1 I'm driving it.
I got a multi-pass. I'm good.
Yeah,
I can do this.
That's right. It's like in Chicago, the CTA card. But anyway, but a lot of times I will try to hide that. But when I got in today and I knew the stuff that we had to do and I wasn't feeling any of it, I didn't dump on you, but I said, hey.
Yes.
I am not feeling this today. And immediately just in being honest with both myself, because a lot of times we try to hide things from ourselves, and you, I felt a lot of relief.
It is so helpful.
And just being honest and not saying, I still didn't feel like doing all the things. Obviously, the podcast is one of the things I wanted to do.
Right.
But in honesty for me with myself
Yes.
and with whoever I'm around, a lot of times we'll break that down.
Yeah.
And for me, there's a softness that does come in reading, really, of all sorts if I need to do that.
Yeah.
And that can be scriptures, poetry sometimes, or even beautifully written fiction, whatever it is. Sometimes that can soften my heart and open it up. And then music for me, and for a lot of people, there are
Yes.
certain songs that I can turn to that I know have a certain spirit within them that are really going to break through that hardened heart. It's like that fallow ground. That really, like if you ever tried to plant something and the ground is just tough, there's no way
Yes.
for anything to take root in there. But definitely looking inside and being honest with myself.
That renewal is important. And I don't want to stay here because I want to.
This is a good one, though.
Yeah, we could talk about this one for the whole time. But but I do think there's something that I'm learning now and we've talked about this, you and I privately. There is something about this talking about things out loud that I find to be incredibly freeing. I think there was I think I lived into this thing for a while where I thought, I don't want to say that out loud because either somehow it's giving it validity or it's empowering it or I don't speak that negativity out
you don't
or
want
I'm
to bum whoever
embarrassed.
you're with out. Yeah.
And you don't have to do it in a way that's, bumming somebody out.
No.
But there is something to be said for speaking something out loud and in a way it does release it. So I'm not speaking it out loud to essentially indoctrinate somebody else or encourage somebody else in that. I'm speaking that out loud in a sense of saying, and almost like a confession,
confessional.
That's saying, hey, this is where I'm at. And being honest with you about that is really bringing me some relief.
And that is different, quick side note, than complaining or dumping on somebody.
Exactly.
If I had said, I don't really feel like doing what we're doing today, I'm having a hard time. And this is why. Yeah. And also this sucks.
And you always, and we always, right.
And that's just crapping out somebody's day. Yeah. But it's just in being honest and say, it's going to be okay and we'll get through it. So.
Okay, number 2.
Oh.
Get comfortable with being wrong. So
I'm good at that.
There are 2 kinds of people in this world, those who can own their mistakes and those who blame. And we cannot fix.
So true.
We cannot fix or change or heal what we cannot admit happened and even our role in it. So to blame someone is essentially to make ourselves not just the victim, but also it's to put somebody else in charge of our future, of our future happiness, of our future life. Yeah. And so it's not to suggest that sometimes we don't become the victims of something. Right. And that's not what I'm referring to. What I'm referring to is being comfortable, being open with being wrong, no longer feeling like it's necessary for you to always be right or to carry that weight. Like I could have, and I actually had this thought. What? We were getting ready to start the podcast.
Was it pre-nostalgic?
It was pre-nostalgic.
I'm going to have to look that up after. That's still bugging me.
I don't think it's a thing.
I don't think it is either.
But it's like pre-deja vu.
Right.
And so I was thinking, I even said to you, hey, do you know what? And then I paused for a second because I was going to tell you about the recurring thing. And then I thought, no, that's kind of funny. And then we should talk about that on the podcast. So I didn't finish the statement. And then I thought to myself, well, damn it, man, you're a writer. How would you not know that? And maybe you shouldn't let everybody in on the joke that you were wrong on something
so
about
you
right.
were still tempted.
So then I was thinking, that's just stupid, first of all. And then I'm wrong about a lot of things. But the thing about, when we're strong enough to admit we're wrong, that is like the beginning place of healing. That's the beginning place of change. You can't change something you don't admit is in there, that you don't admit happened. I can't get better if I continue to add 2 + 2 = 5 and I won't admit that mistake. Well, I will never get to the place where 2 + 2 = 4. Yeah. And make that change. If I don't admit to that, if I don't cop to that, if I'm so insecure. So being strong enough to admit that we are wrong, or being at least willing to see that we are wrong, is the beginning of learning. It's the beginning of future. It's the beginning of it's the beginning of hope. And so we use this picture a lot that, obviously for a great deal of our history on the planet, we believed that the earth was flat. That's the best we could do. That's the best we could see it. And the moment we discovered that we were actually this orb and that we were actually rotating and spinning in relationship with other planets, other orbs, it didn't just unlock our world, it unlocked the universe for us. The amount of change, the amount of discovery that was allowed because we admitted we were wrong about this thing opened up this entire other thing. And I think that is the way it can be with us. Sometimes when we admit we're wrong, it just keeps our heart soft, which is guarding our hearts. And then and B, sometimes it's little discoveries or little things. Sometimes, though, admitting we were wrong, admitting that we have a role in a relationship that continues to go south and is always frustrated, looking at that and saying, what is my role in this? What am I doing? Well, that can begin to heal those things. That can begin to change those things. So
yeah, that's interesting. We talked about that when we did, we do a podcast with middle schoolers called Dreamers Club Podcast. And I think the very first one that we did last year during the school year was the value of being wrong.
Yes.
We talked about that. It was really interesting because the kids, I kind of thought when you told me we were going to do that, I was like, I don't think they're going to get that at all.
Yeah.
But I was wrong.
As my dad would say, I thought I was wrong once, but it turns out I was incorrect.
Exactly right. But they really got into it. And what it really comes down to, I think, is the fear of embarrassment or shame.
Right.
That if you had not said about recurrence versus reoccurrence,
right.
If you were afraid of being ashamed since you're a writer, you should have known that.
Yes.
But instead, when you admit that, it helps everyone around you to say, oh, I also get words wrong.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's what the kids are saying. Yeah, you're afraid of being embarrassed. But the truth is, when you admit that you're wrong, then it lets everybody else know it's okay for them to be wrong.
Yeah.
And how many fights in life could we stop if we were just willing to say, oh, man, I had that wrong.
We are desperate to try and impart that in a sense to our daughter by example. So I don't know how many times a day, but multiple times a day.
I apologized 3 times this morning.
Just say I was wrong about that. I'm sorry about that. I did that incorrectly. I guess I had the wrong information. I made the wrong choice. Yeah. Whatever it is.
Did you notice this morning that she and I were having some words over some
happy words?
You said, and she said, or maybe it was last night. She said, listen to that. And I said, oh, I'm pretty sure it was this way. And she goes, this isn't that. And I said, okay. And then she goes, actually, I don't think I had told you this other information. And I could see why you didn't know. And I was like, oh, which she didn't say I was wrong. But what she said was she admitted that maybe she was at fault. And I was like, progress. I think all teenagers think that they know everything. Well,
and speaking of which, because I've discovered this in my own life, Anger is a great litmus test, a great indicator that you are actually wrong.
So the more
when
angry
your
you are,
response, there's a response that comes from frustration. There's a response that comes from whatever, and sometimes anger is the absolute right response, and that's okay. But a lot of times, when I am dealing with somebody and I call them on something or ask them about something, and they completely blow it and lose their poo-poo, then that is the best indicator that they're wrong. They know they're wrong, whether consciously or subconsciously, but the reason they're responding with so much
defensiveness
is because they know they're wrong. And so that has become this thing. And so, so this whole thing about admitting that we're wrong and being comfortable with being wrong, not only does it give you a chance to find out what is right, not only is it a chance to move forward in discovery, but it's just, there's so much hope and discovery. I'm not the same person I was at 20 because I was wrong about a lot of things at 20. Sure. And between now and then, I've discovered that. And my life is so much bigger now than it was at 20 because I was wrong about a lot of things.
That's cool.
Okay. Number 3. I think this kind of goes with something you said earlier today, but it says, number 3, don't give yourself away. The world around you will demand your attention, your outrage, your allegiance and passion. You're not required to give it. Not everything is your fight. Not everything is your cause. Some people, places, or things simply have not earned the right to possess your energy or your focus, so don't give it.
That's good.
Yeah, so That's one thing, like you were talking about earlier, I think, as we were talking about guarding our hearts, that, this empathy gene, of which you have kind of an excessive empathy gene, like a gene that, like we have a gland and an organ that produces too much of a thing. So your empathy gene, your empathy gland produces an abundance and too much empathy.
Sometimes, yeah.
And so the tendency is to say, no, I'll just harden myself in that process. Well, really what we're saying is, there are about a bajillion fires that happen on the planet in a given moment in time, and we can't resolve all of them.
Yes.
And so we have to kind of pick and choose where we're going to put that energy, where we're going to put our attention, where we're going to put our, emotions.
That song, I actually just heard it yesterday, and this is going to be my new theme. It said, save your tears for another day. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I felt like that was a message for me. A lot of times, we only have so much emotional energy to give.
Yes.
And we only have so much we can invest in friendships and causes and people we want to help.
Right.
And so as you get older, you can start to understand that you have to save your tears.
Yeah.
Sometimes for another day, like the day it was 8th grade graduation, but my daughter was only a 7th grader. So I started feeling the emotions of all the other parents. And the truth is, it's okay for me to be empathetic, but it wasn't my day for tears, to be sad that she was growing up. And so, it's getting a sense of those things that are worth your emotional energy.
Right.
I think that's huge. And I feel like now more than ever, just because the sheer amount of information that's available to us, there are more people, more causes, more political things to worry about.
Yes.
We have the whole world at our fingertips. Mm-hmm. And so you can go around giving out little tiny pieces of your emotional energy and not having anything left for those things that truly required of you, like your own family or whatever you feel like your calling might be or your passion.
Because the way the world around us works is that it is demanding, sometimes because people are in such need and so they're crying out, and that's a whole thing. But the world around us, the politics around us, the social media around us, the news around us, the causes around us are all demanding our attention. Yes. And fighting for our attention. And I get that need and that part of it, but we cannot do all those things. So it's not on us to, just because they're demanding it, just because they're requiring or asking for it, does not mean we have to give it. Yeah. And so choosing which things that you're going to give your attention to. So right now, there's a lot of political skirmish and all that stuff. And I was thinking the other day,
that's a nice word, skirmish.
you no longer have that right for me to demand that kind of emotion, to demand that kind of attention, to demand that kind of focus and response.
You can't give that every day.
No one from Washington is calling me and saying,
but you have such good advice.
I know it. No one's calling me to say, what do you think about this policy? Yeah. What do you think about this thing? And so, but I'm giving it the emotional energy of someone who is
an elected official,
boots on the ground doing something, and I'm not. And the same thing is happening in Africa, and same thing is happening in Asia, and same thing is happening over here and over here. And I cannot resolve this. But there are a lot of things right here, right now, that I can impact, that I can do. And I'm choosing the things that I'm going to put my emotions and energy into for those things that I can radically impact at some level. And that's really helping me. So just because someone demands your attention, just because they demand your outrage, just because they demand whatever it is, does not mean we're required to give that thing.
Yeah, that's really good. And it's another way also, going back to the first one of guarding your heart. Guarding your heart.
Right.
Yeah, you have to do that. That's good advice.
Number 4. Shield your mind. Oh. So we've talked about this before, and we actually talked about this as one of the podcasts with the kids at the middle school. I think we called it push pins that day. Okay. But it's your mind has a door, and just because a thought drops in doesn't mean you have to let it in or entertain it. It's okay to say no. Vet those thoughts. Do they add life or do they take it away? Mm-hmm. Do they agree with what we know and profess as truth? Do they make sense if you say them out loud to other humans?
That's funny.
It's a great way to figure out.
It made a lot of sense in my mind, and then I said it out loud.
Yeah, we have to police our own thoughts. Yeah. Every life seems sexier, healthier, and more fulfilling without the shackles of our day-to-day reality. So we see it as a fantasy. Yeah. Self-hatred makes sense when it's not measured up against who we really are. Most ideas seem brilliant in the dark echo chamber of our own minds. So consider the thoughts, especially the recurring ones. There's something specific to the recurring thoughts that happen in our brains that have a certain level of weight to it that we really have to
those are
guard.
They call them neural pathways. They're like
so
literally
to guard
like
against
streets.
those and vet those. He said they're not all winners and they're not all truthful. So the quicker we can turn out unhealthy thoughts, even repeatedly, the easier it is. When we delay, they move in, sleep on our couch, and eat our Cheetos.
Man, they're always coming for the Cheetos.
I know, because I love me some Cheetos.
Me too, and not those dumb puffy ones, like the good crunchy kind. Those puffs. I don't understand.
It's the texture of it all.
Yeah, exactly. You need the crunch for sure. No, you do. We do have to shield our mind. And just like we were talking about before, we've never had more information. We've never had more entertainment opportunities. We've never had, more music to select from, more people vying for our attention. And so our mind, like you say, is a street.
Yeah.
And it has doors.
Right.
And it is our choice what we open it to.
Yes.
And that, whether that's social media or also sometimes that's the people that you're around.
Yeah.
We talk about being around people a lot, which is very important, but those people who are constantly, and not just being honest, but complaining.
Yes.
And
right.
are negative. And you can begin, for instance, if you're in a work environment, certainly not mine, but if you have a coworker and their perspective on your boss, or perhaps another coworker is always negative and they're bringing that every day.
Yes.
And you are letting that stuff in.
Yeah.
That will begin to affect how you think about your boss and that coworker. And it's the same with friends and relationships or tech circles or whatever. Right. We have to say, and that doesn't mean we always have to be like, hey, stop talking bad. It just means, politely walking out of the room or not responding in a certain way. If someone is fishing for you to say something a lot of times back and you kind of just give it instead of oh yeah, man, I know, instead of just saying, oh, or yep. Yeah. I mean, that says you can quit this, you got to shield it.
We used to talk about that as our hand in hand with this thing we used to call our media diet. So the information you take in, if you're taking in the same information from the same source every time, that's going to begin to shape your thoughts. And those things are planting thoughts. Oh, yeah. So just because a media head says it or a pastor says it or a pod host says it, doesn't mean you have to let that in and say yes. Doesn't mean that's a good thought. They're not all good thoughts.
I like how you said that. All thoughts are not winners.
Yeah, right.
That's true.
So especially right now, every thought that gets presented, especially in our media formats and our social media formats and all that stuff, they get presented as gospel truth. This is this and this and this and this. And what it ends up leading to in most cases is some animosity towards another human or towards another group. This person's an idiot. And if you believe, this, that, and you're only going to hear this, and all that group wants to do is da 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 da. And that's churning things in our brain. It's changing our profile of other human beings. It's causing us to hate other Americans and other people, other just general humans. Yeah. And so that's part of it. And I think this other part of it that we can get into if we're not careful are these whole fantasies that we get into in our lives where we think, if I was living this person's life, things would be easier. Yeah. If my kids behaved like those kids did, then things would be easier.
If I had her metabolism and build, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and so there are these fantasies that, left unchecked, grow into discontentment, and they grow into a whole other series of things.
I think of thoughts like that. Like I get this picture of guys, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm kind of an old lady gardener, although I'm told that that's trendy.
Well, I used to refer to you as Edna.
And that was when I was in my 20s. Yeah. But there is something about it that I love. But when you have a plant, say if you think of a thought as a plant, a little tiny plant, and you're putting it down in the soil, say it's a negative thought.
It's a negative thought.
Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
Oh, gosh. And then the people that you're around or what you're reading or listening to comes along little by little, and they pour a little water on that, and they put some sunshine on that, maybe even a little fertilizer on that negative thought, because you're not being careful about what you're bringing in. Before you know it, you've got a full-blown weed or attack plant or whatever you want to call it. But that's what it's like. I mean,
Absolutely.
so you have to, those thoughts that are not winners, those things that come in, and you have to say, well, just pluck it out.
Yeah.
Pluck it out right now.
Well, let's talk about
Weed
these
that
thoughts.
puppy.
Let's talk about the thought that comes in and says that, things like that you're ugly, or that no one likes you, and no one wants to be around you.
Why are
or
you
that,
looking at me?
Yeah, or
when
that
you said
that we're not physically attractive in some way, or whatever. And so those things are painful. Those things get a little place in your brain. We don't kick them out right away.
Yeah.
And we think, I do need to lose weight. Or, I'm never going to look this way.
And then you see an ad of a girl that looks a certain way, and that pours water on that
right.
way.
And so then if you don't kick that thought out, if you begin to entertain that thought a little bit, if it takes up residency on your couch and starts eating your Cheetos, well, then where that goes is now you become self-conscious.
Yes.
Now you become self-aware. Now you are not really wanting to go and be with other humans. Now we have isolation. Now we are denying other people the good that's in you to give to them. Now you are spending more and more time alone, more and more isolated. And so this thought that was a little suggestion, a little idea,
little
hey,
seed.
you don't look as good as they do. Hey, you're not attractive. Hey, that's whatever. Now it's growing. It's the feed me Seymour. I mean, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until those things. And that's the way fantasies work. That's the way envy works. That's the way discontentment works. That's the way all these things eventually.
It's easier to pluck them out right when they start to sprout.
Yes.
I was having a conversation with our daughter, poor girl. Luckily, she never listens to this, and probably podcasts will be obsolete by the time she's an adult or whatever. So, but she, she's a 13-year-old girl, and there's pressure on everyone to look certain ways, and a lot of
that didn't happen when we were kids.
Yeah, that's a common to man and woman.
It's been going on from the beginning.
She literally, she's a very pretty girl. I mean, she got blessed with a good build and metabolism, as we were joking. She's beautiful. And she said to me in the car the other day, something about, I just this or this and that, and I knew it. She was like, I'm just ugly.
No.
And what was interesting was, I know what a battle that is for young girls and how I fought that. And I said to her, kind of forcefully, I said, stop. I couldn't believe it. I said, stop right now.
Yeah.
I said, that is absolutely not true. You are gorgeous. Your beauty comes from within. You're also physically beautiful. And do not start believing that lie. And she had tears that came out her eyes. And she said, thank you, Mom. I said, don't. So my point to that was I was forceful about it because that can wreck a girl's life.
Right.
I don't let it sprout.
Yeah.
Don't entertain it at all.
Yeah.
Don't give it any water. Take it out now. And anytime, and you and I have, we've chosen certain thoughts, or we'll be honest with each other about certain things we're struggling with. Like, I just feel like this doesn't matter at all.
Right.
And I've actually said out loud to myself before, I am not going to believe that.
Right.
Have you ever had somebody who came in with a conversation or a viewpoint, and you were respectful in the moment to hear what they were saying, and you thought, well, I probably should consider that. And then after you maybe get back in your car and you consider that, I've actually said, no.
Right.
That is not right for me.
Yeah. Well, like we started this one by saying, the thoughts that come in, we have to vet these thoughts and even the way that we say them out loud. So it's not like there's one thing to verbally vomit on people.
Yes. And we all know some of those vomiters.
with negative stuff all the time. There's another thing like evangelism. So there's a thought that gets into your brain, and the act of saying it out loud, suddenly you could see it in the actual light.
Yes.
Suddenly you could see it for what it was. And that was an opportunity. So there are thoughts that in the dark echo chamber of my brain, those things make sense over and over and over again.
Right.
And then I think, okay, this is this and this is this. And you've never amounted to anything, you never will. And all those things. And so
that's always a nice one.
Yeah. And then you say it, and then there's like, oh, okay, now I can.
That's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's the power of that, and having trusted people around you that you can, and then there are some things about meditation and about how we speak to ourselves, how we speak about ourselves, how we speak about other people. Those things begin to reinforce thoughts of light, thoughts of hope, thoughts of goodness. And so we do have to be careful. There's one thing to be self-deprecating. There's another thing to be self-hating.
Yes.
And self-deprecating is, and essentially it's being transparent to somebody and allowing someone else the freedom to not be perfect.
Right.
That's self-deprecating.
Right.
Self-hatred is a reinforced, self-destructive thing that is incredibly damaging, and that's what we have to guard against. And so, how we talk about ourselves, how we speak about ourselves, how we speak about ourselves to other people, all those things are kind of shape the thoughts we have, and they're really, really important. So, yeah. Okay, number 5. This is the last one for today, and if you've been a part of Dreamers at all for any length of time, this will seem a little familiar. But number 5 says, see others. So in the 10 or so of these, we'll only do 10 on this podcast, though there's a couple others. But of these 10 things that if I could give them to Evangeline or impart to Evangeline, this is one of them. To see others. Yeah. One of the great joys in life is seeing the good in someone and then actually telling them what you see.
Yeah.
So if you stop and think about it right now, you can probably go back to some moment in your childhood when someone told you, hey, you're so good at math. I mean, people told you that all the time. You're so good at math.
They never. That's never been said of me.
You're so good at art. You're so good at running. You're so good at being a friend or making people laugh. And that changed the way we saw ourselves. It changed the way you saw yourself. Well, obviously, we have that same power, and it's incredibly impactful if you are 8 or if you are 88. Yeah. And that power never changes. Hearing that someone sees you and hearing that someone recognizes the good in you, that never diminishes no matter how old we get. And so no one was ever been told that they're good at something, kindness or hospitality or making people feel good or comfortable. And they responded by saying, thank you, I'll quit now. No, they go on, they're encouraged, and they go on to do more good. And so when we recognize the good in someone and tell them, then we grow the good. Yeah. And so this ability to see other people, that becomes a great joy for us. And it connects us to them as other humans. Yeah. It makes us feel better about ourselves. It takes our eyes off of ourselves, so we're less self-focused, less likely to be self-absorbed or less critical of ourselves. We're literally taking our eyes off ourselves, distracting ourselves from ourselves, and then putting that attention in a good way on somebody else. Yes. And the way that impacts us, you and I have been watching this for a couple of years now. So whether that's the barista, whether that's the teller, whether that's the politician, whomever, treating them like a human and acknowledging that to them and recognizing the good in them is, the impact of that it's hard to overstate.
And it's the way to live. I had the opportunity yesterday to kind of work like a security desk at it was a volunteer thing for our daughter.
It's because you're so solid and unswaying.
That is exactly right. And pretty nostalgic. So many recurrences. But anyway, no, basically it's just sort of a check-in table. But you get to see all of the kids that are coming in for that rehearsal, as well as parents you haven't seen in a year. And so I kind of make it a game for myself to try and say something encouraging to each person.
Cool. Love it.
Not any big deal. It's just I've got some free time. I'm sitting there,
but it's super
but
cool,
I'll
though.
say, hey, I saw you last year when you did this and this role when you played, and man, you were so good. And they're like, light them up. You see a parent, hey man, it's so great to see you, man. I love the way you're always taking your kids out to do fun stuff. I mean, it's just conversational, but before you know, it's something that lifts you both.
Yes.
That's the beautiful thing of it. In a way, it's sort of selfish, but you are looking for what's good in somebody, and then it's kind of fun. Even, one of the things that I like to do, which is kind of fun. Mm-hmm. There are some people it's harder to find the good in.
Yes.
It's there.
Why are you looking at me when you say that?
No, I'm not. But, so for me, it's a kind of a fun game to try and think of something. There was one particular person I was really having trouble with yesterday. Right. And I was like, what could I say? I came up with something.
Well, that's because as I've joked about.
The way you paint your nails. Look at the creativity on that polish.
As I've joked about you in the past, you approach social situations with essentially prison rules, which is, in prison rules, you go to the biggest person in prison and you just you smack the crap out of them. You try and take them out.
You diffuse it right away.
Yeah. So you will go to the most difficult person in the room.
I do. I get it out of the way quick.
And you will offer something that is good about that person. You will say something to them to encourage them. It lowers their defense shields.
It
makes them
diffuses it.
Yeah. And whereas I would spend the whole night avoiding them, you go straight towards them.
Well, no, that's so true. I mean, I do. I'll go and take care of it right away. Do you ever, quick side note, do you ever find there are some people that you have to do that with literally every time you see them?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
so sometimes you can diffuse that with somebody and they think, oh, this person's safe. They really do care about me.
Well, they have
some people, it's like they forget.
They have an insecurity that radiates arrogance. And so you have to, they forget they're still feeling insecure. So they still come over as arrogant. And so you have to go back.
Every time I see them, I have to come up with something.
It's a little bit like there are a couple, occasionally you'll find a dog and maybe it's been a shelter dog or something like that. And you have to, every time you see that dog, you have to take the first 5 or 10 minutes to let that dog know, hey, I'm your friend. We're safe. Okay. You leave your hand out. You let them sniff it. You offer them a treat. You do whatever you have to do. But the amount of pain is still instilled in them that you're going to have to repeat that cycle a couple times.
And finally you want to be like after a couple of years, hey, I'm your friend.
It's okay now.
And most people you can win over with time, but some people you have to reintroduce.
But this is the thing that you and I have tried to literally get in the habit of.
Yes, it does get
easier. In the habit of seeing the good in somebody else. Get in the habit of seeing it, not just seeing it, but actually telling them, even though it's awkward because most people are not prepared for that.
And they think you're weird.
Or we feel insecure and someone tells us, but and a lot of times it is simple stuff. Hey, I love that haircut on you. I love that color of hair on you. Hey, you're such an amazing dresser the way you're,
I love your 7 colors.
I love your style. Yeah, that's right. I didn't know you could get your hair to do that. And
those are some pants.
Yeah, right. I love the way you don't conform to social norms in clothing. That's so brilliant.
What a sense of style. I didn't say it was good.
You have a style that's all your own. But the idea of getting in the habit of seeing others, getting in the habit of encouraging, it's such a happy way to live. Yeah. It's such a happy life. And beyond all that, the fact that it plays such amazing dividends for the person, that is really incredible. And it makes, it does make us happier. And if for no other reason than it distracts ourselves from ourselves for a little bit longer. So that, okay, friends, that's the first 5, top 5.
Those are
so number 1, above all else, guard your heart. Number 2, get comfortable being wrong. Number 3, don't give yourself away. Number 4, shield your mind. And number 5, see others. And you probably have a list of things that if you could, you would impart them to your kid or your niece or nephew or friend or whatever. But maybe you want to make that list. Maybe you want to do that and send it to them in a letter or something like that. That's a brilliant idea.
A cool birthday present. Or a Christmas gift.
Here are 10 things I'd like to give you if I could, and it's a really cool place to be. So
I like it.
When we get back, next podcast, we'll give you the 6 through 10, and they're going to be brilliant.
Conclusion.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, man.
You'll never guess how this finishes.
If 1 through 5 were amazing, just think about 6 through 10.
And because I am seeing you, I think you did an amazing job on the podcast today, and I really appreciate your insights.
You know what? Well, thank you so much. I do appreciate that. And since I'm seeing you, that's a pretty incredible list you've written.
Hey, thank you.
It was so cool that you took the time to write that and use your words to encourage the people out in our little podcastville.
All right, dreamers, with that, we're going to let you guys go. I'm going to let me go now. And we so appreciate you guys being here. Please share this podcast with other people. We'd love to hear from you. There's a little thing right there that just says text comments and stuff like that. We want to hear from you.
Send us your list.
And send us your list. I want to hear what's on your top 10 list. And we'll go from there. So we love you guys, and we will see you next time.
All right, see ya.
Peace out.
Thanks for listening. We'd love it if you would like and subscribe to the podcast and then share it with the people you know. We want to include as many people as possible in the conversation. Also, be sure to check out our Got a Minute mini podcast, which pairs funny stories with original music all in about 15 minutes. Thanks! This has been a production of Pioneer Dream.